The AskPiesNation podcast is proudly brought to you by Swish Personalised Videos, the platform connecting footy fans with their favourite players. So surprise a Collingwood fan in your life with a personalised video from so many stars, the perfect lead into Mother's Day, which is just around the corner, Marcus. And I think so many players you can choose from. I reckon plenty of our Collingwood mothers would be leaning towards a few of them.
I reckon DC's got the pick of my selection for Mother's Day, Nico. An absolute bargain, I hear.
Yeah, just $66, but you can get a discount thanks to AskPiesNation. If you use the code AskPiesNation, 10% off for all our listeners and viewers. So keep an eye out on our descriptions throughout our audio channels, but also on our YouTube. 10% off while using the code AskPiesNation. So don't delay. Be quick to order. It's delivered straight to your phone or your device, and a perfect present for Mother's Day or any other event you've got coming up, thanks to Swish. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AskPiesNation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. Nicholas Sacco here again, your host, episode 7 of season 7, or episode 180, if you're counting from the beginning. It's now 5 straight wins for the Mighty Pies as we demolish the Brisbane Lions at the Gabba to move back to our rightful home at the top of the AFL Ladder. There's another big month coming ahead, but our confidence is sky high after what is now certainly more than just a purple patch for the Pies. Today we discuss the joys that come out of that win against the Lions. We get tactical again thanks to AskPiesNation, and we return to our VFL and VFLW reports after a little break. And with big wins come big pods, because for the first time in our new Backchat studio we have a full pod. Luke Humphries, Jack Dugan, Marcus Callahan. Welcome, boys. It's a pretty nice feeling knowing that we're playing some unbelievable footy and that we're sitting top of the ladder after just 5 rounds, Marcus.
Top of the ladder. Great to be here with all of you gentlemen on a public holiday. It's all going very well at Collingwood land, Jacko, and be keen to hear about your first-hand sentiments from a trip to the Gabba by your host himself, I hear.
Yeah, it was. It was a successful trip to the Gabba this time. Went in 2023 to no avail. Lions too good that night. Went along this time by myself. So glad I did. The Pies were amazing, Nico. Spoke on Thursday night how big just nabbing the 4 points would be, but what a statement win from the boys on Thursday. We've put the rest of the competition on notice, and yeah, really looking forward to a big Anzac Day coming up on Friday.
How did you find the trip, mate? What was the atmosphere like?
Yeah, good. I think the northern states, pardon me, don't offer that much in terms of hostility. Sometimes, Lukey, we generally even up the crowd up there, but the Lions fans, they are flying at the moment, and they have a bit of a longer history than some of the other clubs, so they do come out in droves. It was interesting. I think my ticket was sat in the middle of a Brisbane members bay, so it meant that my jeers and cheers were perhaps a little bit subdued compared to what they would be at the MCG, but a really great night nonetheless. Always done in great sort of spirit and vibe, I think, up there. Yeah, nothing negative to speak of, but yeah, really enjoyed my time, and yeah, good to spend some time with some family as well, Lukey.
I was going to say, how'd you find the crowd? Because from the TV, it felt like they were getting a bit hard done by at times by the umpires and officiating. That I thought their crowd were getting a bit up and about and a bit aggressive towards what was happening on the field. How did you find it being there?
They were, yeah, they're pretty hostile, but look, in all fairness, and we always speak about, I think, when we're hard done by the umpires, but sometimes it does go the other way, and I think it should be said that we had the rub of the green on Thursday night, and they, for the most part, had every right to be frustrated. They're very Nick-centric, I find, when you go interstate, especially. And it's probably, yeah, exactly right, Nico. Who isn't?
Teams and the supporters.
Very negative against Nick Daicos. And, gee, it was nice watching him absolutely tear them apart, especially in that second half when he took the game away from them. They certainly got quieter and quieter as the game went on.
Well, if you're an opposition fan listening or watching, guess what you'll be tuning into for the next half an hour? Nick Daicos. Well, we'll start as we always do. We'll start with the pie that caught your eye. So many, again, to choose from. Another dominant performance from just about everybody that was on the field. Marcus, I'm going to start with you this time. What was the pie that caught your eye?
Yeah, thanks for giving me first crack, Nico. I've gone with Jamie Elliott, and it's the milestone man for me this week. It was just your classic Jamie Elliott game. The hanger, the 2 goals, probably missed 1 or 2 that he should have kicked, but just awesome to see him keep applying his trade and toiling and trying to stay in the game, and eventually the results started to come his way once we really broke the game open. So really fantastic to see his family, and I think about 20 heads from Euroa also get to the match as well. Just such a long journey for Billy, and it's all been talked about in the media in the last week, of course, just how much footy he's missed compared to how much he's played, but absolutely loved him from the moment he came onto the scene. My earliest memory is when he kicked that goal on Anzac Day from row B. It was absolutely out of bounds in the first quarter, and since then he's just continued to build an electric career, and just awesome to see him come off the ground and be on the shoulders of DC and Darcy Moore, I think it was. So yeah, just reflecting on the career that's been for him, and just so proud.
Yeah, and it became a game where we were able to get involved a lot more than we probably would have in a different situation. I think he ended up with the 2 goals, 3, so it definitely could have been a few more, but a just reward for what he's been able to contribute for this footy club for many years, and very glad we had the chance to cheer him off, Jack.
Yeah, just on Jamie Elliott, Nico, I don't know what it was like watching from home, boys, but that second goal that he kicked in the third term felt like a really huge moment in the game. I know in hindsight the game's probably over by then, but to go in, Dan McStay had missed a really gettable opportunity. We dominated the quarter, and it just felt like we were probably 1 or 2 goals away from really capitalising on all our opportunities. So for him to pin back the ears and nail that one from 45, I thought was not only a great moment for Jamie Elliott, but a huge moment in the game.
It felt like a bit of deja vu for us in that third quarter, where we're all over the opposition but just needing to finally put them away. And I think it was kind of fitting that Jamie was the one to do it.
All right, Jack, Pilot caught your eye?
Pilot caught my eye was the man I just mentioned there, Dan McStay, Nico. Came out like a bull out of the gate, I thought, early. Maybe a bit of fire in the belly against the old mob. Has played a bit of a different role for us this year in that he's been given the ruckman a lot of chop out and has played that role quite well, I reckon. But this time he was just that out-and-out full forward coming as our deepest man, playing out of the square, and I thought he really set the tone early in this game, taking a couple of massive marks, and the most important part was nailing his opportunities. Kicked 2 big goals to start us off. Unfortunately, that sort of went a little bit wayward as the game wore on, but in terms of coming out hot and setting this game up for the Pies, Dan McStay had a huge role to play in that, and thought it should have been highlighted.
Yeah, it certainly was. What was he like without Membry in that side for the first time this year? Did we see him play a little deeper than we usually would? Because we know he likes to get up the ground and play that role and taking some nice consistent marks on the flanks or further up. Did we see a deeper Dan McStay on Thursday night?
I think so. We also saw a Dan McStay that was able to get a run and jump at the footy. Yeah. I think so often when you have too many big blokes in the side, you're sort of forced just to put it on their head and hope that they can be strong enough and sort of move their opponent out of the way. But yeah, in the first quarter, Dan McStay was just getting a lane, and we were going to him every time, and it was really pleasing to see. I did make a shocking call while I was there, though, because the Brisbane supporters, old player, not happy with him that he left. Obviously, they were getting into him a bit, and he kicked 2 early goals, was up and about, and I don't even know how it came out of it. I said, "Oh, here he comes again!" And then the Brisbane bloke just came. I think it was Harris Andrews, came over the top, intercepted the mark, and I looked like an absolute idiot. So yeah, I got to put my hand up.
By yourself as well.
Yeah, by myself. Yeah, there's a lot of moments throughout the game that I wish I could have had back, but oh well. Lukey, the Pilot caught your eye.
For me, it's Jordan Goey. Bit quiet coming in. Obviously, injury interrupted start to the year. Only finished with the 12 disposals, and it was touched on throughout the game that he's just not quite having the impact that we want to see, but kind of the icing on the cake at the end with a dominant win for him to still finish with the 2 goals and still have a bit of impact despite not being, the tearaway Jordan Goey that we want to see. Just more so looking forward for what he can produce over the next month and how important he is to this side, but still good for him to have some contributions at the end of the game.
Before I get to mine, I want to open the Jordan Goey discourse a little bit, because you're right, Luke, he was a little quiet, some limited game time, still very much between the forward and midfield was where we saw him quite a bit. But do we get to a point where we have to make a call about giving him some extended time on the sidelines if it means we get a 100% Jordan Goey in the latter part of the year? Because yes, he's an outstanding player, so critical to our system and the way we do go forward, but I would rather see him fully fit and knowing that we can rely on him in the big moments than being a bit iffy about what we're going to get in terms of an output. I mean, otherwise we just manage it throughout the season, which at the moment we're able to afford to do, which is fantastic. I think with a healthier list than other sides, touch wood of course, I don't want to risk playing Jordan De Goey when I feel like he's not 100% fit. I think Anzac Day is fine for him to go out there because we know he can turn it on when required. But when I'm seeing the likes of Ned Long, Steele Sidebottom, Nick Daicos, Scott Pendlebury having an incredible influence in the midfield already, I don't think there's a need for us to be pushing De Goey when we know that he's not 100% fit. How would you like to see that managed over the next month or so, Marcus?
Yeah, it's a great time to have this discussion because I came into this season thinking De Goey and Tommy Mitchell both on the back foot with their injuries and not having done an ideal pre-season. How is that going to affect the depth of our midfield this year? Enter Ned Long, enter Steele Sidebottom, and of course Pendles is probably playing above the standard. We know he can, but the fact he's still producing these efforts consistently at 37 is a sight to behold. So with those guys providing stability to our midfield, I've now changed my tune about what we need to do with De Goey, and I think the point you make, Nico, about potentially giving him that sideline time is ideal for his physical longevity over the course of the season. We just know how itchy Geordie's going to get to play. He wants to be out there even when he's 40% fit because he just has so much confidence in his ability. So I'm a little bit lost as to what the mix is forward and mid, because if he's got Ned Long sitting, if we've got Ned Long sitting there, you can't not play Ned in the middle. He's an absolute beast, and he's going to create a season for Nick in particular that looks different. And as soon as Ned comes out of the midfield and De Goey goes in, it's not the same level of, I guess, that inside-outside that we have, because Geordie probably wants to get it on the out as well. And Ned just runs both ways so well. So keen to hear your thoughts, boys, about how we play Geordie over the coming rounds, because he's clearly not 100%.
Well, it was an interesting call. We didn't know if he was going to get picked for Thursday's game. So it was interesting that he actually did get picked. And you could kind of see, we touched on it in his earlier games this season as well. He's just kind of not looking like he's fully running both ways. And is he actually ready to be out there? So it's an interesting call to make because he is such a dynamic player for us when he is on, and one of our most important. And they did touch on multiple times throughout the call that he is the icing on the cake to this Collingwood team. When we are up and about, it was good still to see him kick a couple of goals, and a long range one as well, kind of reminding from the grand final a couple of years ago. But
Any
just
chance we can get to remind ourselves of that?
Exactly right, against Brisbane. And just so everyone knows, we haven't lost to Brisbane, I think, in 6 goes
since the grand final.
Since the grand final, which we did beat them as well. So we're having a good run against them. But yeah, just with De Goey, obviously you don't want to. I feel like you don't want to play too cute with selection. If he's fit and they think he's ready to go and he's ready to go, you got to play him and just kind of work out where he fits in the mix, because you don't want to be too cute and kind of pulling players out that are ready to go, but then other injuries happen and then you don't have guys match fit. So I think just being a bit careful with how we proceed from here. Obviously we're in a very good position right now, injury wise, form wise with everyone, but it's just a wait and see, and probably we'll see a better look on Friday on Anzac Day.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely nailed it. Both the boys have there, Nico. But remember, cast your mind back to a 2018 season where it was unclear whether or not Geordie's role was in the forward line or in the midfield, and where he was going to be able to impact games most. I think with Ned Long coming into the side and our midfield seeming far more settled, as Marcus highlighted, is there an opportunity now for us to play Geordie as an out-and-out power forward with some minutes in the midfield, but instead of a 70-30 split dominant to the midfield, perhaps the other way. Definitely came into this game underdone, there's no doubt about it. So I would have liked to have seen him rested up for a big Anzac Day, but in terms of his position, I think the midfield hasn't looked as good as this since we won our flag in 2023. So there's no reason why we need to change that. And we know that Jordan is capable of playing a power forward role because we've seen it in years gone by. So can he now adapt mid-season, probably change his mentality as well to play that position? I'm not sure.
Yeah, but in my opinion, he's not a walk-up starter in that forward 6. When you look at the way that they've been playing at the moment.
Geordie.
Absolutely not. I think
he's not 100%?
No way. I mean, you need to look at the impact that Lachie Schultz has had prior to his injury. That Membry, McStay and Mychek have just synced so well as those 3 tall forwards. The Bobby Hill can light things up. Jamie Elliott we've spoken about. We've got Beau McCreary that can run in there. There's so many others. I'm not exactly being hell-bent on selecting Jordan De Goey so quickly in that forward line. So it raises another concern about where his best fit is. That's why I believe, apart from Anzac Day, I would like to see some time on the sidelines for him, just so that we know that he is 100% match fit before we see him out on the park, and then we can start to move some magnets. Because as I said before, while touch wood, we've got a relatively healthy list. Like this Friday against Anzac Day will arguably be our best 22, apart from maybe Schultz, that will be on the park. While we have that opportunity, because it hasn't happened many times in the last few years, I don't see the need to play Jordan De Goey at 50-60% match fitness.
Yeah, once again, I think it really comes down to balancing his season mentally and making sure he's not getting too stale on the sidelines, because he knows he's capable, even if he's probably below the threshold of what fans or even the coaches consider an acceptable level of match fitness. But to your point, Nico, it's an interesting one strategically, because if we can bank a few more wins before our sort of mid-season bye, and we've got the opportunity to rest more senior players, it makes more sense to me to give Geordie potentially a bit more time to rest up now, knowing that we've got him more fit from sort of rounds 13 through 19, because it's a luxury if we have enough wins banked to rest a Steel side bottom or a Scott Pendlebury or Jeremy Howe through that portion of the season where it gets wetter. Footy's harder to play. We've got a string of games at the G. So I think on paper, and just like the edge that Geordie provides by seeing his name on the team sheet, again for the opposite, like he's going to do some stuff. Yep. Even at 60%, 70% match fitness, he's kicked 2 goals, provided a little bit of influence. But it's an absolutely fascinating watch for us this year.
Yeah. Super sub.
Oh.
He won't like that, will he?
Don't know. But I don't think he can. We can rely on him to do that a little bit. But yeah, no. Obviously, 100% match fit. Play him anywhere. Put him in the ruck for all I care. But if he's 50-60%, I'm not entirely sure. I want to see him just be put in a situation where he's having to constantly run both ways.
Well, he's at risk of injuring himself again if he plays too much footy in a row at that match fitness percentage, which we're just estimating at this point in time. So Ned Long can't come out. I'm absolutely bullish on that. But he's probably the one that we look at for a Geordie replacement in the middle.
Well, great segue, because he was the player that caught my eye again. And it was purely because I wanted to see if he could back up from the breakout performance he had the week before against Sydney. And I mean, we know that the game that Nick Daicos had, and we'll touch on that very shortly, because why wouldn't we? But again, still 21 disposals, 6 tackles, 5 score involvements, 5 clearances, and still managed to get a goal. I don't know if any of you watched First Crack last night, but they made a case in point that when he starts matches this year, he averages nearly 25 disposals, over 6 clearances, over 6 tackles, and over 12 contested possessions a game. Not only that, we are plus 24 from clearance when he's on the field, and not only that, he's ranked 6th in the competition for turning an effective clearance into a score. I mean, the work that this guy is doing is lo and behold incredible. There's no way we can possibly look at taking him out of the team. When there's 100% Jordan De Goey, if Tom Mitchell makes his way back into the team, yes, there's going to have to be some discussions about how that works. But right now, you'd have to arguably say he's our top 6 or 7 most important player on the field right now, Ned Long. And he was so influential again against this Brisbane Lions side, albeit in not a high-pressured game situation. So I was just, blown away by what Ned's been able to do, and he should not miss a game for the remainder of the season in my eyes.
No way, Nico. And the knock-on effect of having a bloke like Ned Long in your side, and what that unlocks for so many others in this team, Alara Steel side bottom, and Nick Daicos, who I'm no doubt we're going to get to a little bit later.
Did he play?
His influence, he absolutely did, and did not let the Brisbane fans know about it. But he's amazing. What for the longevity of a bloke like Steel Sidebottom, Scott Pendlebury, having a young in and under bloke like Ned Long, who's so good at getting the ball from inside to out and propelling us into attack, is so invaluable. He really does. He's a blue collar midfielder, gets his hands dirty week in, week out, and as Nico just said, so nice to see on a small sample size going from being a sub to getting a start against the Swans, and now in a big game against the Lions that he's able to stand up once again. And this isn't just a flash in the pan. This is going to be vital to our season going forward, and he's becoming, I would say, he's been our most important player over the last month of footy, because again, that knock-on effect of his ability to do the dirty work and make everyone else look good, it's just invaluable, Marcus.
Yeah, and I'll go one step further to say we're actually looking at our future midfield mix with Ned Long in there too. DC's obviously got a bit of footy left in him, but there'll come a time where it's Ed Allen, it's Finn McRae, it's Nick Daicos, and it's Ned Long. And so injecting experience into a guy like Ned, who's literally he's like a big tree in the middle of the midfield, and you just can't tackle him, and you can't pull him down.
I don't think he's been taken to the ground yet. He's
seriously
just unstoppable, and he will go through 2 or 3 and keep going. And what I do love as well is his penetration in his kick.
Yeah.
He's been sort of talked about. His efficiency is probably not as great as others and ball use, but the way he just launches it, he gets it from one point of the ground all the way inside 50, and with such penetration, and it's not just a high wobbly kick, it's got that low kind of dart to it. So he's got a lot of facets to his game, and has kind of, like you boys have said, transformed the way this team has operated pretty much since round 0.
About time the Hawks made up for giving us Clinton Young 10 years ago.
Hey, he was a superstar.
No, he wasn't. The first time I cried in a football game was when he dropped that mark against Gold Coast.
Suns,
Oh my God. Embarrassing. Anyway, it's not about him. Let's touch on Nick. We have to, because 38 disposals, 645 metres gained, 8 clearances, 6 inside 50s, 12 score involvements, 6 marks, 3 tackles, a goal, was tagged for periods, barely, let's be honest. In that third quarter, Jared Berry did all he could, but was just nowhere near him in the end. He was elite once again. Some of those kicks that he was sending inside 50 were just glorious. I could watch them every single day of the week. I mean, is there anything that we need to discuss about Nick that we haven't over the last 3 years? Because I think we've used just about every adjective under the sun to describe what he's been doing for this side. I mean, we can talk about other players unlocking this Nick Daicos, and it was a slow start to the year for him, of course, we know that. But I mean, it doesn't seem to matter how much attention gets put on him in any given game, Marcus. He just continues to take the piss.
Well, it's been highlighted in the media. Who can actually go with him? His athletic prowess and his burst from the stoppage, it's such a rare weapon to have, and it's also the composure and the poise with a lot of bodies around him. I reckon Brisbane were pretty flat. I really think we need to emphasise that the Brisbane we played against is probably not the Brisbane that we're used to seeing, even though we have the wood over them in the recent seasons. Nick, for me, was just playing at another level again. And when he's not on top in the middle, he's then creating opportunities for other guys. But in this game, he just kept working and working, and he probably sensed that off a 5-day break for the Lions, and they didn't quite look their normal selves, that he was able to do things. It's just that the agility and the slicing runs and creating balls inside 50 that on angles that you're not expecting, probably as the defence. And it's just taking that extra step and taking that extra moment to evaluate the situation, and then just launching absolutely beautiful balls inside 50. There was probably 5 or 6 where he actually hit a target despite being under some sort of pressure. So, yeah, we continue to, I guess, be fascinated about how to describe his game, because it keeps going to new levels, Jacko.
Yeah, for sure. The power and the speed was one on Thursday night, being there live, Nico, that I was personally blown away by. We've seen it a little bit up until this point in his career, but that's definitely something he's gone away and worked on and clearly got better. I think Brisbane's approach to him is one to highlight as well. They clearly went with we've got a star-studded midfield and we're going to play a team sort of defend with attack, if that makes sense.
Team tag, I heard thrown around. I'm not sure what that is, but anyway.
And I heard on my way in today that Fagan got interviewed at halftime and said that's clearly not working. We need to change it. They throw Berry to him at halftime, and for most of the third quarter he did an okay job on him, but he was still able to have an impact. Marvelling at the glorious man that is Nick Daicos, Lukey. But the power and speed, being there live on Thursday, was one that I thought, was not different, but it was one that was exemplified.
But I think that's what broke the spirit of Brisbane, was that third quarter where they put such heavy work into Nick and sort of gone away from the way they started the game to changing it up and putting a lot of attention to him, and just the fact for Nick just to be able to work through that, and it's something he's really added to his game along with the rest of the team, is when this happens, what are we going to do? We got plan B, plan C, plan D, and you can see that teams are going to be coming up against us and not know what to do, whether is it even worth tagging, because it ends up unlocking the rest of the team. Nick works through it eventually, and then he becomes a different beast, and we've seen him become a different beast at times throughout this season already. So it was just icing on the cake when he ran in and kicked the goal inside 50. It was like, where's Berry? Berry, you're pushing and shoving off the ball, but you're nowhere near him when he's running into an open goal. So
Two passages of play to highlight. That one just there, Nico. What a rundown from Bobby Hill on. Couldn't have happened to a better bloke in Dane Zorko. In my opinion. Not one of my favourites, that's for sure. But then for Nick to get on the end of that's a weird thing at the footy when a big moment in the game like that happens. You celebrate and you're the only bloke within 20 metres celebrating for your team. Have sat down pretty quickly there. But there was that one. There was one earlier on in the game where Rayner comes off the square with one of the all-time hip and shoulders, and Nick just gets straight back up and is involved in the next passage of play. Amazing. That is amazing. I felt like Nick played with his attitude on Thursday night, like a bit of F you.
Swagger.
This is me. I'm going to take this game apart. Was coming to the bench, was celebrating as hard as anyone on the ground, and it was glorious.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, we could talk about him for the rest of the hour, but we won't. I mean, we can.
Well, I was going to say, this is a good time to bring in my new seg, Nick Daicos Brownlow Watch.
Well, have you got an update for us?
Well, I thought each week, based on Nick's performance, we should just evaluate the 3-2-1 of the game. That being, votes could come from the Oppo as well. But is it a unanimous 3 this week, gentlemen?
Absolutely.
But I reckon it's probably his first 3. I don't reckon he's got...
Maybe last week with the 34.
I reckon he gets a couple from last week.
Potentially, but I reckon the Swans game was his first votes for the season, to be honest.
But a 1 or a 2?
Yeah, then he's got the 3 this week.
Yeah.
I just think it's hard because he needs to have these kind of games to get the 3. It's just, even with us, we're looking elsewhere, and he's got to have these incredible godlike performances to poll the 3. So it's unfortunate for him, but he's going to have an exceptional season either way, whether he wins the Brownlow or not. But it's just, he's going to have to do incredible things for the whole year to get the 3s.
And there's a number of guns probably have had better seasons to start across the league. But I reckon he's probably sitting on around 7 votes at the moment, Nico. And we're just going to keep a running tally just on the hush.
So Marcus's Nick Brownlow watch.
No, there's no Marcus in this. It's just the Nick Daicos.
I want to see how close you get to the actual thing.
No, this is a wee thing, Lukey. But I'm happy to be the spokesman for this fantastic initiative. So
I'll give you the insight just as well. 91% of our Pies Nation faithful voted Nick Daicos for 3. So I think that's pretty overwhelming that he was best on ground. We'll get to that a bit later on. From a tactical point of view, because again, I felt like we did win this game tactically once again. And Jack, you made a good point. We won't get this Brisbane ever again. I feel like they had just a really off night and they weren't able to go ahead and keep up with us for much of the match. But that doesn't take away from what we were able to do to take away the game from their control. We kept Brisbane to under 40 inside 50s for the first time since 2017, kept Brisbane to 53 points, which is their 3rd worst total output in the last 5 years. I mean, you would have seen the stat, the magic number 85 again, Marcus. We keep teams to under 85. We're 16 and 1 draw and no losses since the start of 2024. It's absurd that we're averaging against only 66 points against on average this year. We continue those numbers, we're winning the flag. It's as simple as that. But what is it about this team defence again that you really kept a close eye on during that win on Thursday night?
It's so connected and there's so much voice. You can just sort of see players on the TV pointing at each other. Have you got him over there? Yep, I've got him. And then the way that they're moving across the ground, it's just a really sharp zone. It's all I can really put it down to. And the way that we're structuring so that we can then be in a position to guard the corridor and on defence and then go through it. Should we turn the ball over? Should a team dare to go into the middle? Because Pendles is in there just conducting traffic. It's really impressive to see. And I'm not sure, we're not the only team that does it in the league, no doubt about it. And I think it'll be interesting to see oppositions try and emulate whatever we've brought to the table, because tactically it's just so hard to pierce through. And many experts in the media who know far more about football than we do, fellas, will say that defence, the best defence in the league will often be a hallmark of a side that's top 4, if not sort of prelim week calibre. And I think that's what we're seeing unfold in season 2025, Nico, 3 games in the last 3 weeks, Collingwood have found 3 different ways to win the game. How impressive is that? If you're coming up against us this week, and it is the Bombers, so they will be sort of scratching their heads, how do we go through these blokes? Because they just keep finding new ways to win. Thursday's pub, we spoke a lot about the Gabba being a smaller ground, a faster ground, a ground that we're going to have to take the corridor on if we're going to win. Combine that with our ability to go along the boundaries we had for the last 2 weeks. It just worked so well. And yeah, as Marcus highlighted just then, our transition defence at the moment is probably the best in the comp by far. And that's a whole
buy-in mentality, as is the pressure game. But a low-pressure game this was. I think most times you walk away from games and each side would have laid about, close to 50 tackles each. I think I heard on the radio 28 tackles for Brisbane and 32 for us. So a low tackle game. So again, that just points to our ability to move in that zone so well, Marcus, and transition almost to perfection. When we're not talking about our back six, I think that's a good thing. They are absolutely having a season up until this point. So really, really impressive, and I wonder how we can do it against the Bombers, Lukey.
You said we've won different ways the last few weeks. So I guess you could say we're changing things on the fly. That's good. But I just think in terms of, I feel like we had this zone in practice kind of throughout last year and it just wasn't quite coming off, probably giving a bit too much and then trying to push up too quickly at the wrong times. I think we've kind of nailed it the last few weeks in we're giving them that bit of, kick around in their defensive half, but then really squaring things up through the middle of the ground and stopping any teams from being able to access the middle of the ground. And I know you said Brisbane were a bit flat and everything, but I think we made them flat they couldn't get any kind of run on, particularly from quarter time. We really just controlled the whole ground. And I reckon in the last few weeks, it's probably been the best 3 weeks of Flyers coaching career. I was
going to bring this up because you put a tweet out that said that this has been the best month we've played.
I know. Obviously, we won a flag and everything, but we didn't have many, relaxing wins during that time and games where we felt in control for the majority. I reckon the last 3 or 4 games, it's felt for the first time in a long time that we have been in control of games for at least 80 to 90% of them. And when things haven't started necessarily well, we've been able to wrestle it back and keep it on our terms and go on with the job and not have it be sort of a luck win by the end or chasing a comeback at the end or holding on for dear life. So it's just been nice that we've been able to control games. Obviously, I think it's been touched on a lot with the media is the senior experience. It was going to be a negative factor at the start of the year. Now it's funny. Now it's a positive in that we've got such a senior list that it's actually in our benefit. So I think there's been a lot of good things in the works over the off-season and a lot of things that were probably in works last season that didn't quite work out, but kind of coming to fruition at the moment.
David King's a prime example. Said, our experience is our best asset now. He wasn't talking about that 5 weeks ago.
Well, no one was. It was all negative. Yeah. The oldest list, the oldest team,
Jack Chris made a point post-game about that change in philosophy, how we were winning a lot of our games in the last quarter over the last couple of years. This time we've been able to put together 4 consistent quarters, which have been excellent. Last point I want to make before we move on to our votes and Ask Pies Nation is at the other end with our forward half. We had 10 individual goal kickers again on Thursday night. The avenues we're finding to goal is just exceptional. Once again, no Tim Membry, and we know that Mason Cox came into the side late with Lockie Sullivan being a late withdrawal. I know we won't chat about this, I'm sure, until much later in the week, but we know that Tim Membry can have a strong impact on this game and on this contest, and it'd be his first Anzac Day if he gets picked. But does he come back into this squad as easily as we thought?
Gee, that's a hard one. I mean, with the Dons having some tall stocks problems, it does ask the question, do we need Coxie in there? I know he's flown the parents out, so he's probably pushing for selection, given the family's come across from the States. But Nico, it's such a hard one to answer off the bat. I also wanted to comment on the fact that it didn't feel like Lockie Schultz was missed last week. And just in terms of like how well he's been playing, I think that's another sign of a really mature team coming together this season. Just like, even Houston coming out of the side, just haven't noticed him as much as
it's like it was talked on last year about how one goes out, one comes in, and you believe that, and they say those things, but it didn't necessarily translate to on the field because when guys were coming out, we was losing certain games. So whereas this year it's actually been a case of that where you actually forget that we didn't have Houston, we didn't have Schultz, but we actually played better than we've ever played this season. So, and you kind of think, how on earth do we fit those guys in? You talk about Goey earlier and how he might not even be good enough to get a spot in the team. So,
let's not go that far.
But it generally is someone comes out, someone goes in, everything stays the same. The system runs the way the system runs. So we're in a blessed position right now, and we can't take for granted how blessed we are with the injury list that we do have and how things are just running so smoothly.
The Mason Cox one's an interesting one though, Nico, because I feel like when Mason Cox gets his opportunity in the ruck against the opposition's second-rate ruckman, he destroys them. He destroys them, and thus we take ascendancy and can really have a pepper patch in a period of the game that's a lull. So that's important to know, and it takes away. Demick's Day doesn't have to go in there and pinch hit as often as he does, nor does someone like Tim Memory, who are probably more susceptible to getting beaten. So that's an important factor. I think if Mason Cox kicks those 2 goals on Thursday night, you almost say, well, he can't come out of this side. That's a slight caveat, because you'd like to see him go down there and impact on the scoreboard like others in his position do. But yeah, he's dominant when he gets his opportunity in that ruck. He's really, really good against the opposition's second-rate ruckman, and maybe it's going to be a weather factor this week, I think, is the only thing that might keep him out of this side.
A lot to ponder, that is for sure. I have to admit, I am licking my lips about the prospect of Darcy Cameron playing on Todd Goldstein. I just have to say that.
Just quickly, have you seen the memes on Twitter about?
Well, our panel up today, Rob,
licking my lips, and it's a screenshot of the defence and
old gold. Yeah,
and you've just reminded me. You say that, and it's going to bite us in the arse when we get dominated.
When he has 35. All right, well, let's get to our votes then from the weekend that was. I think we all had a pretty unanimous 3 votes, but I'm keen to see where you went with the other votes for the afternoons, for the night game against the Lions on Thursday.
Yeah, sure. I've gone 1 vote to Jamie just for the milestone performance and just loved everything that he brought. 2 votes I've actually gone with Josh.
Yep.
I thought, did he spend a bit of time on Charlie Cameron throughout this game? Because I thought that he was just getting off the chain and driving the ball forward so often.
I didn't know Charlie was playing, to be honest. So maybe.
Yeah, and 3 votes to Nick for reasons we've discussed. Jacko.
I've gone 1 for Pendles, huge in the early part of the game for setting this up. The old head combining with the young gun of Nick Daicos. It was amazing to see there live, Nico. It's a great game from Pendles. Josh Daicos gets my 2 votes. One that, again, highlighting, we talk about Membry and Cox. Houston and Daicos is an interesting chat, because I feel like Josh has probably had somewhat of a frustrating year up until this point, obviously this being his breakout game, and that's got largely to do with the fact that a bloke playing a position I think he likes to play in Houston off the half-back flank, and that running and sprinting, as Marcus just highlighted then. So Houston coming back into this team not only creates selection headaches, but I think creates somewhat of a form headache for Josh Daicos, because I think he really thrives in Houston's position, and and vice versa. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch. And Nick gets my 3 votes. Lukey.
I'll go 1 for Josh. Yeah, like you said, one of his better games for the year, and interesting without Houston there, how that goes going forward. 2 votes, Jamie Elliott, you touched on earlier.
2 votes?
Yeah, well, it was a bit of a more so because of the milestone and celebrating his career so far. And he did kick 2 goals 3, so, he ends up with 5. It felt like, I don't know about you boys, but early on it felt like he was really forcing a goal just to get the monkey off the back. And there was a couple of situations where he probably should have passed it off, and he's tried to run around and try and kick one. So it was nice when he finally did get his 1, and then nice to get the 2, but more so because of the milestone. He deserves a bit of love. 3 votes, so obviously Nick Daicos, incredible game, and we say it often, but one of his best of his career, and he's got about, he's competing with a lot of other games for his best in his career.
Yeah, I agree with Jamie, and that's why he gets 1 for me. 2 votes went to Josh Daicos and 3 went to Nick. Yeah, the Daicos conversation, Josh, is interesting. I think Perryman's the one that slots back out of that defensive 50, plays a bit more into the midfield again, but then what does that do with a Lipinski, for example, and where do we see him fit? So, a lot to try and wrap our head around, because Houston definitely coming back in to go, you think, stays into that side, and then how the rest of that works out, we'll wait and see.
Much better conversations to be having than this time last year. We were trying to make full forwards out of half forward flankers and midfielders out of back pockets.
Exactly right.
We're loving having this chat at the moment, so we're in a good spot.
So Nick got the 3 with our fan votes. He was overwhelming, as I said. Josh Daicos overwhelming as 2. Still Sidebottom comes into the top 3 for our fan. Again, we have this still Sidebottom game last year, and we're talking about it for 15, 20 minutes, but the way he's been playing the last month just goes to show that the renaissance period he's having is absolutely absurd. Dan McStay, Jamie Elliott, Ned Long, Josh Daicos. Sorry, Darcy Moore's also been put in there as well. Good to see he's been cleared of any concussion issues, so he will be fit and firing for Anzac Day, which is great to see. All right, let's swing across to AskPiesNation. Thanks to everyone that does get involved. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere. We're talking about the parts of our game that are keeping us in good stead at the moment or thereabouts, Lukey. Plenty of great answers across our platform, I'm sure.
Yeah, kind of what we touched on earlier, but what's kind of changed in the last year or two. I know we've been playing some good footy still over the past few years, but what's different about this Collingwood edition in 2025? Nadine, defence has been elite compared with 2024. Back six seem more connected, but there is the next man up mentality from 22-23, which has really made a difference. The belief is also real. I really feel that the older gentlemen are playing as if it's their last outing and the younger lads riding in their coattails. Either way makes for an exciting time.
Older gentleman now, are they? Okay, yeah, very nice.
Sam Scriber, adaptability. Defence has been huge all season, but our ability to make subtle changes to our structure and game plan when challenge has been the turning point in the last 3 games against Carlton, Sydney and Brisbane. In all 3 games, we were able to stifle through the opposition from playing through the middle.
Yeah, it goes back to your point, Jack, about finding 3 different ways to win games. It's a very telling sign at this early point of the year.
JK Riley 93, mentality that it isn't okay just to win, wanting to really bury teams has been awesome, resulting in us starting to string 4 quarters together consistently and not rely on last quarter heroics or holding on for dear life after giving up a 5-goal lead. Port Lions and Sydney games, huge for that.
If you had said to us at the start of the year that we would have defeated last year's grand finalists by a combined 80-odd points, I would have thought you were crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But we did.
Mm-hmm. Yep, another sign of maturity in this team. And I think just to build on that point, I don't know the stats, but I would dare say our scores per quarter look more even compared to previous seasons where we kicked 1 goal in the second quarter and then 7 in the third and then 5 in the last to come home and win by 3 points. We're doing it and staying in front now. So
I think it was the stat that we're the 9th team to ever do it, beat 2 grand finalists, both 4-quarter games.
Oh, okay. There you go.
We're the 9th team to ever do that. I don't know if it was in back-to-back weeks or just in the same
First
season.
in back-to-back weeks. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so it's a pretty... I know Sydney aren't absolutely flying either at the moment. But Brisbane, they hadn't lost yet, so they were the best team in it coming into this game. Irvin, defensive organisation and discipline, particularly in the second halves of our games. Teams can't move the ball against us with any freedom. You could see how visibly frustrated some of the Lions players were when they couldn't find any dangerous options to kick to.
Huge, absolutely. And you combine that as well with the pressure that we bring on to the contest. We're 5th in the comp for average pressure acts per game. So it's not pure tactical, but at the same time, it's great to see that we've got such a strong connectivity to ensure that we are shoring things up in the back half.
Will Gus 23, defensively from 2023 to 2025, there's been a big shift from in-your-face, big pressure, high intensity to create turnovers and score the other way. However, this left us vulnerable once teams broke through our high press and could score with open players in their forward half. Now we play a web-type defence once the opposition has the footy in their back half, forcing clubs wide and long down the line to either turn it over or kill the contest. It's a high risk of turnover if they take us on through the middle and resulting in easier goals from turnover for us.
You know, it's been nice to have about 4 or 5 straight weeks without mentioning Nathan Murphy and how we're going to fill that void, and that we've been really able to shore things up in that area.
Yep. Paul Adamo, the ability to shut down the ground and frustrate the opposition into taking on a low percentage kick to attempt to open the ground, ultimately making it near impossible to score against us, giving us the best chance to score ourselves from turnover and our experience, players, on-field coaching and positioning.
We like that.
And that is it for
very good.
AskPiesNation.
Very tactical, very analytical AskPiesNation.
But
today.
A good few little points there around how it's kind of shifted from the past couple of years and that high pressure in your face kind of, which we all love, but we did come in frustrated on a lot of occasions where teams were able to get out the back and score quite easily against us, which I think is the main thing we've been able to turn around this year.
The good thing is we can still play that way if we need to, should the situation allow for it, if we are finding ourselves struggling, which I think is the best part. Thanks to everybody that gets involved in AskPiesNation. Be sure to continue to do so. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all our socials. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate all the support that always comes our way. Okay, continuing to get the fans involved here. We are moving along to our guest, not a guest margin, not again.
No.
I mean, what was it, 43?
the margin,
Yeah.
52.
50. Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. So no one got close.
No, well, a couple 40s, but it's not it, is it? So
Fun. I mean, not fun because
but I knew going into it, no one was going to predict us by 50 plus against Brisbane. So
All right, headphones on. Guess the crowd time. Luke, run us through, because actually, Jack, as you're putting your mitts on, what was the? Do you remember what the crowd was while you were over there?
I don't think it reached 40. I
that
think
was
it was
34,805 or 34,802. Now, Kay, who we've got coming on, was the other one, so she was 3 off.
3 off.
That's a good effort. There was it was like looking around the stands being there, it felt like there wasn't many episodes.
So when I first was doing it all, she actually had messaged and claimed the win, and I thought she had actually got it.
Oh.
And I got myself all confused, but then realised, no, she was 3 off.
Was she 3 below or 3 above?
Well, that's what we will find out from her, because it was 35,805 or 34,805 or 34,802. Now, she was just the other one. If you want to quickly just get the...
Okay, I'll get it up and we'll have a chat to her. But maybe Jack going or not going may have been the difference between her getting 2 or getting 4.
Could have been. And there was a spare seat next to me as well, Nico.
Was there?
So if
Thanks for the invite.
She could have been even closer, but yeah, not today.
All right, so James Lagassic is the one that was closest to the crowd. So let's give him a call and we'll chat about our favourite topic in the whole wide world. No?
No, Kay.
I don't have a K here from you. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong chat.
I was going to say,
the wrong
you might
chat.
have had James last
Ooh,
week.
Yeah,
that was,
I think we did.
That was very
Last week,
close.
yeah.
Actually, James was very good last week.
He did message out and say, I know I wasn't on last week, but he messaged
Kay,
and said thanks
yes,
for this.
yes.
Yeah, Kay Ferrari.
Hopefully she didn't listen to that last bit. Yes. Kay is the one that we want to have a chat to. So let me get that up while I get to the other chat. There we go. All right. Let's try now.
Hello.
Is this Kay?
Yes, it is. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome to the Pies Nation podcast, and well done for being our Guess the Crowd winner this week. Only 3 off, a pretty good effort.
Yeah, pretty. Thanks, Nick. I don't know how I did it, actually.
You don't have a method? You just
No,
go with your
there was
gut?
no method. No method whatsoever.
All right, well, we'll
But
just...
5 was a nod to Jamie Elliott for his 200th game. So I don't know how I did it, but I'm pleased that I did.
Very nice. Well, we're very happy to have you on, Kay. Now tell us how you saw the game on Thursday night from your eyes. What impressed you so much about the Pies getting our 5th straight win to start the season?
I have to be honest with you, Nick. I cannot watch the game live on TV. Really? I go to the games every week.
Okay.
So when we're here in Melbourne, so I see the whole ground. So I do it on replay.
Yep.
But what I saw was the fact that we moved the ball so quickly, and we're playing as a unit from the back line to the forward line. I just love the way we're just moulding together.
Beautiful, Kay. It's Luke here. Congratulations on your Guess the Crowd. Now,
Hi, Luke.
How
are you?
Good. How are you? I was just when I was checking the Guess the Crowd, I actually thought you did get the exact crowd, but you were 3 off. So one of our closest we've had before. Now we were just touching on AskPiesNation on, I guess, changes that we've seen across the team in the past couple of years, and what's kind of different about Collingwood in 2025. I know we won a premiership a couple of years ago, but are we looking a better outfit cohesively across the ground at the moment, do you think, and across the last month or so?
I think we are. I think we're much quicker, and I think it's from what I see that we're handballing a lot more than we are kicking.
Yep.
And our setups are just amazing. Everyone has a job and we do it.
Awesome. Thanks, Kay. It's just Jack here. Thanks again for coming on. Now, obviously, the Pies had a great win interstate against the Lions this week, one that will stick in the memory bank for a long while. You mentioned off the top just there that you go to a lot of games in Melbourne. Do you ever venture to the interstate games? And if so, do you have a favourite one that you would like to share?
I haven't been. I've been to one game, and that was when we played our first round 0 in GWS, and that wasn't all that exciting. So So I can talk about games that I've had at Melbourne at the NCG, but not so much away games.
Well, do you have a favourite one under a Craig McRae that sticks out in the memory? There's been a few, but is there one in the recent years that you can remember that you think of fondly?
I don't think you can go past the winning of the grand final. Do you?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Were you there? Were you there, Kay?
Oh, was I there? Absolutely, I was there.
Well, run us through your day on grand final day, because we did ask this question often last year, but
my sister and I, we rocked up at our car park at about 7 o'clock in the morning, and we had a champagne breakfast that we did. And then we walked to the ground, and I was sitting up. I'm a Legends member, so I was right up in the gods. And it was just the most amazing experience ever. I've seen 3 grand final wins, and I've seen a lot of losses as well. But that, to me, was just... And to Goey's goal in the last quarter, that tap from Nick Daicos was priceless. I'll never forget it.
Incredible.
Thank you, Kay. Marcus here. Very quick one from me. Is the lid off?
No, my lid is firmly sealed.
Oh, controversial.
No, I'm not getting carried away. I think we're only played, a third of the games, a third of into the season.
Yep.
So, no. Look at what happened to the injuries from some opposition players the other day. It can just unbalance your whole team. So I'm keeping a very firm lid on it.
Very wise, but not the answer I wanted to hear. But thank you nonetheless, Kay. Nico.
Oh, I know that I'm quietly confident, but I don't want to get too excited.
All right. Well, I'm glad there's somebody keeping us in check at least. But Kay, thank you so much for joining us as part of the
Thank
Pies
you,
Nation
boys.
podcast. Looking forward to celebrating some wins with you back in Melbourne.
Yes, and thank you. I love your podcast. It's just sitting around a table. It feels like mates are sitting around a table enjoying our wins and dissecting the game. So thank you very much. It's great listening.
Thanks, Kay.
Beautiful. Thanks, Kay.
Thank you, Kay.
That was Kay joining us as part of the Pies Nation podcast. That could be you if you guess closest to the crowd. So keep an eye out for Lukey's game day post in the lead up to each match. A big one, of course, with Anzac Day coming up. But if you are closest to the pin, that will be you joining us as part of the Guess the Crowd competition. So I think it was nice of her to give us a bit of an insight, but I agree with you, Marcus. I would have liked a bit more of a pump up. We're five straight wins, mate.
Ep title, lid on.
God, I don't like it. No,
that's okay.
Maybe on.
All right, a couple more things.
See.
A couple more things before we wrap up. Marcus, the VFL returned after our illustrious 2-week bye. We did play the Lions on Good Friday. It was another close one, which we typically have had against Brisbane. But before I get to Serge's report, unfortunately, weren't able to get the win.
The Ipswich Cup, Nico, we went down 107, 106 after the siren. A behind kicked by the Lions unfortunately shattered our day. So we'll hand it over to the Surge for the full review.
Very warm conditions. The VFL Pies had 13 AFL listed players against the Lions, a contest amazingly similar to last year's game where we lost by 6. The Pies jumped the Lions early to lead by 12 points in a very fast and high standard game. Both teams going goal for goal. Getting plenty of the ball in our defence around the ground as well. The game remained tight throughout the second half, the lead changing several times in the final quarter. Brisbane led by 11 points early in the last through the efforts of some of their AFL-listed players before being reeled in by the Pies due to their defensive pressure and some great groundwork from the likes of Ed Allen and Charlie Dean, as well as Zach Cochran. Up forward, Steen West provided good targets, combining with Marnie, Mason and Allen to kick our 6 goals, and we led by 7 points at the 32-minute mark. Now, you would think at that point we'd have it done. Unfortunately, the Brisbane Lions and their experienced players trapped the ball in our defensive half, and with scores level, they managed a point after the siren to inflict Collingwood their first loss in the VFL. In simple terms, the Lions scored heavily from their domination of centre clearances and stoppages. In contrast, Collingwood scored from turnovers and transition play starting from our defence. So we had a good spread of goal kickers again, but Marcus unable to get the job done.
Unable to get the job done, so unfortunate to lose a close one, but still we sit in the top 10 in the VFL. We're currently in 8th place with our 2-1 record. Next week, we play the Dons. It's on Saturday
Scared you're going to
night.
say we have a bye.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, we've probably got one coming up in the next few weeks, so rest the legs and looking forward to that. But the Don 7:10 at ETU Stadium on Saturday
that'll
night.
be the big Saturday night Channel 7 prime time game, that one.
Yes.
Over a neutral territory.
Yep.
Very excited.
On the money.
Very excited. Our VFLW also got underway as well on the weekend, first match of the season. The Pies got the job done over Casey, 7-5, defeated 3-1 over at Casey Field. So fantastic to see the girls get on the board for season 2025 and start with a very nice win. We're in 4th spot. Much less teams in the VFLW competition, so it makes much more sense that there's a top 6 out of 12 teams rather than a top however many there is in the VFL. We have the Bombers as well, Saturday 11:05. That one's at Windy Hill, though, so be sure to head out there if you're keen to get a bit more Collingwood action, but very excited to see the girls continue their good start to the season. All right, we're just about to wrap up. We will have a Thursday preview. I'll be chatting to Rob from the Sash to talk all things Pies and Bombers, so very excited about that one. Lots of chocolate mentioned as well to celebrate Easter, so very much looking forward to you guys tuning into that chat. But we have a game. Now, I feel like I need to make myself clear when I read out this instruction because, Jack, you had a mare last week.
An absolute mare. Not for the first time, it's got to be said, Nico, this year. And in my history of playing these games, I might try and my best to take a back seat and let
stranded
Luke
by
and
himself.
Marcus take over today to avoid another calamity.
Well, there's 3 of you here, so I thought we'd go simple and go back to blind rankings. So you need to work together as a team to give me the blind ranking that you guys would feel. So for those that don't know, I'm going to give the person or thing first, and they have to rank that person or thing before we get to the next one. And then the end ranking should reflect what they would have had if they had been given all 5 options at the start.
And important to note, we actually can't get this wrong because it is largely opinion based.
Yes.
And you can kind of get it wrong, but it's not factual at least. We can't.
Oh, we'll find out.
It's
subjective.
Let's find out.
Who did I have in the second spot last week? I think I had Leon Davis.
Oh, Leon Davis is our most goals. Yep.
Most goals, yeah.
That's okay. All right. Well, the comments on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter will be the ones that tell us if we got it right or wrong.
Yep.
All right. So I want you to blindly rank these Anzac Day medal winning performances.
Okay.
Plenty to choose from. I think we've had 15 or 16 Collingwood players win an Anzac Day medal. Hopefully someone else gets one too on Friday. All right. Oh, no. Get that out of here. All right. Your first player is Dane Swan, 2014.
That was a game where we
One
That was one of my favourite games
all time.
growing up. How old was I then? 16.
Only thing that can beat that for me is Nick's. Was it last year or the year before?
Year before.
Yeah.
It was such an iconic. It was we were 41-3 or something at quarter time.
Yeah.
The game was over, and I know it's a bit of a different game now. That lead isn't quite such a big lead, but back then it felt like insurmountable to come back from there. So
That's one.
The buddy goal from the pocket as well, running in away from Cal.
the fend, the bursting through Swanee.
Yeah.
He's kicked his third. Oh, iconic. I'm going to go one as well. Probably just for favourite
All right.
Can't
wins.
disagree with
Yeah.
Mark McGough in 2002.
In the rain. Oh, wow.
Was he still at high school then, Mark McGough?
I think
I've
that's the
heard
story,
Stories
yeah.
then that he got called up to the principal's office because there was media banging on the front door to try and speak to this year's Anzac Day medalist, but he had a year 12 English exam to study for. But yeah, not one that I can remember, Nico. So I might leave this to.
That's
Mark
a
as
3 or a
rookie.
4. I think.
I'd go just 4.
Yep, 4.
4?
1 and 4.
Jack Ginnivan, 2022.
Nah, 5.
We're at the club.
He's only a VFL player now, so
Yeah, well, he's not playing today.
Yeah, 5.
yeah, 5. I don't remember that at all.
Severio Rocca in 1995.
Big one.
We
Kick
the
9.
draw.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. I'm going to go 3
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Could
and hope that you've got Nick from 2023
3.
as
It's gonna be Paul Seedsman.
So 3.
Yep.
Okay. So your number 2 spot
It's Paul Seedsman.
is Paul Medhurst, 2008.
Steakies.
Someone we've had on this podcast before.
Well, we've only got 2 left.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's your 2 spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Happy with that?
So what do we have? Swan
swap over.
1.
Swan 1, Meadows 2, Rocker 3, McGough 4, Ginnivan 5.
Oh, McGough probably could have gone up, but that's that. It's locked in.
I think that's one of your
I'm
better
pretty
performances.
comfortable with that.
One of your better performances, I think. All right. A great way to end our show.
As Jack says, we can't be wrong.
Yeah, exactly right. We can't be wrong.
Just open to scrutiny. Yeah.
Well, Marcus, Luke, and Jack, thank you for joining me, boys. And nice to have a full pod today.
Absolutely. Good to be 5 in a row, Nico, and Jack and Marcus. So hopefully we can make it 6 on Friday.
No doubt. Look
Are
forward
we
to
all
it.
going?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, going to arrive about 4 or 5 hours before the sun comes up, Nico,
Yep.
to avoid any delays. I think the security is going to be pretty tight. Biggest game on the footy calendar outside a prelim final or a
Yep.
grand final. So get there early if you've got it, even if you've got a seat. And looking forward to what many of the pundits I think this week will probably write off as a win for Collingwood. But we know Anzac Day is a bit of a different beast. So yeah, can't underestimate the Bombers on Friday.
And a massive guess the crowd.
Yes. Actually, I know,
Segment this week.
30 seconds. A quick Anzac Day medal tip.
Nick Daicos.
Thanks. Yep.
Yeah, Pies by 4 goals, Nico, and I'll give the Anzac Day medal to Jack Crisp.
Jack Crisp, nice. He's going to equal the record for most consecutive games, which
Yep.
is exciting.
I'm going to go Pendles just for a bit of an OG throwback. Pendles lighting up the Anzac stage again.
I said to Rob Ned Long, so I'll stick with that. He actually went with Darcy Cameron as his Anzac Day medalist, so not even he thinks Anston will win. Until next week, I've been Nicholas Sacco. You've been listening to or watching the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. We love all our listeners and viewers across Australia that enjoy the Pies Nation podcast, but we love our overseas viewers and listeners as well. And one of those that have gotten on board are the boys and girls over at the North Texas Devils in the US, who are looking for players to join their sides ahead of the 2025 season. Based in Dallas, Texas, and established back in 2020, they're hoping to bolster awareness of Australian rules football over in the US. And any of those listening or watching our podcast that are heading over to the US at some point this year, the one team for you to get involved with is the North Texas Devils. We'll give you all the information in our descriptions, I should say, across our podcasts and YouTube. But a great opportunity to get involved with some Aussie rules and teach the Yanks the best game in the world. And you can do so thanks to the North Texas Devils.